to walk down the aisle in silence. On today's podcast, we've got the Metropolitan Players, a youthful, energetic wedding band based in New York City, to help us chat through how to choose the right music for your wedding day. Founders Drew and Erin Coles created the Metropolitan Players for their own wedding and cared deeply about creating a beautiful wedding for each and every client. Over the past several years, they've grown to become one of the most best trained and well-respected collectives in New York City and the surrounding area. Erin and Drew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
So before we kind of dive in, I want to know, how did you guys get started? How did this come about from your own wedding?
Yeah, so Drew and I met in college, and he was going to school for music business, and I was going to school for theater and business. And so when we went to plan our own wedding, we were extremely careful and selective about the music. We were really, really excited to have the best band ever and have our guests dance all night since music was so important to us. And as we were looking at options, we just couldn't find exactly what we wanted. And so we sort of decided, Drew was like, hey, what about starting our own band and then doing the same thing for other couples? And I was like, sure, let's go for it. So about a year and a half before our own wedding, we really dove in and started this band and built it around everything that we wanted and wished we could have. That included an amazing vendor who was kind and excited to create a really unique experience for us based on our special requests. Somebody that, a very talented group of musicians. That was really important, that the talent was just off the charts. And the ability to learn requests too was super important to us because we had some really, really special songs to us and our own relationship. And so we built it around that. And then just wanted to give that same incredible experience to other couples planning their own weddings if they really, really wanted some fantastic music and a great vendor to work with.
I love that. I feel like music is so important to the wedding day. It just does. It sets the tone, and it's so hard sometimes to find someone who cares that much. So I love it. So why specifically weddings?
That's a really good question. We started for our own wedding, and as we went through doing different types of performances, we ended up coming back to weddings because they were the most meaningful for our staff, the most meaningful for our musicians, and the most meaningful for us as leaders, because there's never a wedding that we walk away from and we don't feel like we just thrust our efforts out and they weren't received by the people who were there and the people had a good time. So beyond those things, we just also developed a real skill for doing them and doing them well. And again, sometimes maybe we felt like some of those skills were lost on the corporate clients. We felt a lot better spending a lot of our efforts at weddings, and we really have come to know and love and cherish weddings in a lot of the ways that we cherished our own wedding and the first couple weddings that we did. There's never a time when we hear certain songs that we don't shed a tear, even to this day. So it's good to stay in that realm and feel that every single time, instead of just playing for a room of people not really listening and not really enjoying and not really changing their lives.
Yeah. I feel like that personal connection is just so important in the wedding industry. You have to really love what you do. It's such an important day for people. It's important that you feel that way too. So I love that passion. How long have you guys been in business? How many people do you guys have? How many different musicians? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have been in business 7 years as of May 2020, so just over 7 years. And we started with an 8-piece band, and then over the years have grown that into a larger collective. So we have about 50 sort of musicians that are on our main roster, with some more that do ceremonies specifically like harp, steel drum, strings on top of that. And that is just a really good way for us to not only give our clients some incredible choice in the band that they have and give us some room to really cater the band to exactly what our couples' requests are and make sure that the musicians that are playing that music, although they can play everything, are the strongest for the kind of music they want to hear. But also it gives our musicians some flexibility. If they do unfortunately have a family emergency or have a great opportunity, like book a Broadway show or have the ability to go on tour with a famous artist. It really allows us to be flexible, not only on the back end for our business, as well as for our clients, to make sure that they are able to sort of customize the group to exactly what they need.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So when you first start working with a couple, like what's the first thing you have them do?
Yeah. So, I mean, after they book and we've signed on the dotted line and they're ready to move forward, we send them what we call the master wedding day sheet. And it's a fun worksheet that they fill out over the course of their planning process. It's due to us about 2 months before their wedding. And that just gives us all the information we need to know as the band to help guide through their day. Mm-hmm. So that includes, basic contact information and who's giving speeches and what announcements they want us to make throughout the night. And then there's also a page that they fill out where they can put in all of their special requests. So that includes like the first dance, parent dances, cake cutting song, all of that fun stuff, as well as some general requests. And there's also a spot for do not plays in case there's that, one song that's going to ruin their night that they do not want to hear.
Yes. Song or artist, yeah.
Yeah, song or artist. You never know. Everyone has that one.
Jason Derulo is listed in that.
Yeah.
In that
something
spot.
Against Jason Derulo for whatever reason.
We can't find that.
It's better to know on the front end than be playing it ruin someone's day. You're like, this is normally a crowd pleaser.
Well, someone doesn't like it.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we do. We gather all of their requests and we essentially help them put together a timeline and work with them and their venue and their planner, if they have one, to sort of really curate the flow of the night to make the most sense, to really make sure that everything is flowing nicely and guests aren't, sitting down and getting up all the time and things like that. And that the guests also do get to hear some really fun dance music right at the start. We love to do that if possible. Our band in particular, we play 4 hours of continuous live music through the reception. Wow. By staggering the breaks for our musicians. So it's really important for us to have a really good handle on the timeline ahead of time as well. So we work super closely with our couples on that front. And then, just little details up until the day of, and then we have an amazing time, have a great party.
I love it. I think that's so great. So from your guys' perspective, are there specific songs that you absolutely need to pick a special song for? Or what if it's somebody who's just I don't want to deal with that? How do you guys kind of handle that situation? What's your recommendation to couples? Should they pick their song? Should you guys pick the songs? How's that work?
Yeah, it's a good question. We would always suggest an entrance song, an entrance into the reception. We're talking specifically about receptions here. An entrance song in, and then songs for different special dances. And if people don't necessarily have something that jumps to the top of their mind about those, we have a number of suggestions of things that are commonly picked, or we can walk them through sort of digging into their past to find songs that would fit with their first dance, parent dances, if they even plan on having those, cake cutting, last song of the night, and then walking through general requests as well. Because for a lot of people, it can be hard to sort of think of, well, what's your favorite artist? Who's your favorite artist? Or what's your favorite band? Or what do you want to hear for X amount of hours of time? And there's some people who definitely know, and a song request list of 100 songs or something like that. And then there are some people who are I can't think of even a single person who I'd want to hear. But again, we always suggest that people look into themselves and try to understand the music that has been underscoring their life up until this point. It's a lot of music. It's a lot of memories and summers and Christmases or whatever holiday people celebrate. There's a lot of times in which music has been underscoring our entire lives, and we find that it's our job sometimes to help people tap into that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 2 questions off that. So how do you help people to figure that out if they don't know? If they're not just oh my gosh, I love this one song, what kind of questions do you suggest they ask themselves, or do you ask them to get to that selection?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, first we'll sort of start with if they have any artists at all that they love, if they have any particular songs they remember. If they absolutely do not, one of the best ways is that we'll send we've put together these playlists on Spotify of some recommendations that we have for each special dance or a special part or tradition, whatever it is during the night that they might need a suggestion for. And we sort of just ask that they go through those lists and then give us some example of like the preferences that they have.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything that sort of stuck out to them, or anything that they gravitated towards, we just have them send us that so that we start to get a better idea for the type of music they really like. And then we can sort of curate a specific list of suggestions for them based around that, given what they like and what they want to hear. So it's sort of like starting with as broad of a range of musical tastes and preferences, artists, and even like looking at a massive song list of just a bunch of things mashed together, and then sort of distilling that down into a few options that might work best for them, for whatever particular part of the night works. And if they have no idea, literally whatsoever, and they're like, pick a song for us, we do not care, then of course we have plenty of songs that we've played that we know will like get the guests dancing, or that's really, really special for a first dance. And so we kind of, can help at least, distill those down and choose something for them if they absolutely want. But we don't run into that often. Most people have enough of a preference that we can help them like choose something.
Even a song will do. Even if we're like looking at a specific event or even a specific abstract word like sun or sunshine or something like that, one person who, if you're at the crossroads of having to pick between different genres, understanding that someone might pick Here Comes the Sun over You Are the Sunshine of My Life by Stevie Wonder, so like a Beatles song over a Stevie Wonder tune, will give us a good frame of reference for, well, maybe they want like some James Taylor, maybe they want some other classic rock or some 60s, 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s music versus wanting 70s, 80s, 90s soul, R&B, stuff like that. So it's like every song, every single person, every single artist, memory that they can share with us, we act as like if it's a data point that we then plot a song list trajectory from there.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, you guys must know a lot of music.
We do.
Yeah.
Actually, here's a really good point, because this last wedding that we played a little while ago, we had to learn some songs that I never knew, and some songs by the Grateful Dead, some songs by Styx, and some other classics that really stretched us. And that's one of the wonderful parts about engaging in this work, is that we are left with these lasting memories of particular songs that happened at a particular time in someone else's life. And we were there for them crossing a threshold in their life. It's a really big, momentous thing for them, and we're there to support them. So in my mind, if I think about the song Renegade by Styx, which is a song that we played this last weekend, if I think about that song, I'll remember being in Lower Manhattan. I'll remember it being a really sunny day with lights strung overhead, with a smaller, reduced group in the middle of the current situation that we have now. So it's funny how all of these memories are tied together. And in this group, we work really hard to understand that, to then help other people understand the importance of that. Or if we're trying to figure out what songs they want to have at their wedding, the fact that this has already been happening to them. They've already been experiencing this thing for a couple decades, and now we're just trying to unearth some of the songs that are like chained to memories.
Yeah, I love that. I think music is always just kind of connected to memories and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you guys are able to help kind of unlock that for people if they're not 100% sure. So you mentioned in entrance. I feel like this is something that people are kind of debating whether they want to do anymore. I'd love to know from your perspective, like how important is that kind of entrance of the couple to kind of kick things off musically and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is, yeah.
I agree.
Might be a personal opinion, but yeah, super important. I mean, I think that especially with what we do and what a lot of bands do in general is like the live music aspect is supposed to be like energetic, like really exciting. Like it's supposed to sort of be part of the day. Like if someone wants that element, it's important. And so like there's something that's really cool about starting the day off or starting the reception off with that like huge celebration, that big introduction of just like, welcome, like this is huge, this is going to be fun, we're going to have a great time tonight. And it usually goes right into the first dance. So it also helps kind of keep that flow going by getting everyone really excited out of their chairs. And then they are sort of watching the dance floor ready for that first dance moment. That's really, really special. So we think, I think it's just such an amazing start to the reception that it's always a little tricky when someone doesn't want it. We usually suggest that they add it, even if it's low key, just because it's still a really, really beautiful moment.
Even if it's a low key song, just because, and this goes back to something that we're finding out is even more important now, that the couple really sets the tone for how the wedding is going to go. So if they decide that they are there to have a good time, the guests will follow suit. And we've seen this play out in some really meaningful ways since things have changed because of COVID. And the couples sort of dictate the way that everyone else acts, the way that everyone else treats their masks, the way that everyone else dances. It's all really dictated by the couple. And we're getting an even clearer picture of that now. And if they come through the door, with guns a-blazing, dancing guns, of course, everyone else will understand that that's the kind of party that that is in store for them. And another thing, back to the whole like songs and memories thing, our entrance song was Party Rock Anthem. Which,
okay, yep.
It's outdated now. And
I know.
Got married, but was.
But it's important.
No, it's like such a good entrance song.
Your podcast is every day.
Yes.
That's what it's like. You understand that like we can have a connection with, and the funny thing is that we think of that song and that time when we see the name of your podcast.
That's so funny.
That brings us to October 11th, many years ago, and then further, it brings us back to the first summer that we were actually dating, and in which the song was popular around that time.
Yeah.
Or maybe it wasn't, and we just still liked it. I don't know.
It was popular, and we we sort of met. Well, we had known each other, but we sort of like got together by just going out one night and having a good time and dancing, and so that was one of the songs that played.
Yes,
so it just was
every five songs, I think.
Exactly. But it was so meaningful to us, and that's something that we encourage our couples to do is choose music that is meaningful. And that's what I would, encourage any couple to do is that, look into where those memories are and what was popular when you started dating that you might have heard in college and you didn't necessarily think of, but like would make you so happy to hear. Just like connect to those moments if you can, and then try to choose something that fits within those memories you have.
I love that. My husband and I, the very first song to kind of kick off our dance floor was Empire State of Mind. We got married in the city as well. And, and that's like, every time I hear that song, I think about it and like everybody being on the dance floor, and you can just make so many memories around choosing those songs. So you guys mentioned you have Spotify playlists. Like what other places do you recommend people look for inspiration for their songs? You said memories, maybe like a first dance or first date. Like what else can they look to?
Yeah, of course, once again, looking into yourselves is like the biggest thing, and just trying to go back in time to what you listened to when you were a kid, what you listened to when you were growing up in college, songs that are tied to memories with your friends or family. Aside from that, yes, our Spotify list. And there are also like a bazillion lists online. If you just search, like if you're like really you're struggling finding a first dance, you can just type in like first dance options. And then like from there, you'll find 1,000 things. But once you sort of start to break down the kinds of things that you really like, and the type of music, then you can look further, like classic rock dance songs or like folk dance songs, like whatever it is that you kind of want to do. And I would say that's also helpful to sort of distill it from there. You can also just listen to playlists, our playlists or other playlists that you find on Spotify or online. Just like listen to it in the background. And if something like, if you perk up to something, like maybe that's an option.
Write that down. Movies, of course, asking asking family members what they'd want to hear or songs that they
Yeah.
like. And the other great thing with those lists that Erin just mentioned is that they often reflect a certain time period. So like if you looked at a list that was designed for first dance songs or wedding songs right now, it may include some specifically like Ed Sheeran songs that didn't exist 5 years ago.
Right.
So it's really interesting how they sort of keep up with the times. If that's something you want to do, or if you want to pick a song that's older and has more of a classic feel to you, then I'm sure some of the straight ahead songs for weddings lists will also help you figure that as well.
Definitely.
I love it. So from a band's perspective, like what is your opinion on a live song versus a recorded song, you know, for kind of some of those big moments? Like what is your recommendation on when to do which version?
Yeah. I mean, in our opinion and what we do with our band is that we prefer to play everything live. It definitely helps with the flow, and it's just super special to hear it live the day of your wedding. I know that not every band will learn special requests, so if that's not a possibility, it might just not be a possibility depending on, you know, what the band is doing. But to us, it's very special. We have the ability to play an MP3 if they absolutely want that. But even if they want a different version of something, so like I'm thinking Can't Help Falling in Love, there's this version, I think by Haley Steinfeld or something that's very popular right now. And we play that version all the time. So it doesn't even, I think that it also adds some flexibility for us to like, you know, take something and do a different version of it. Or if the couple wants something sped up or slowed down, or if they want a medley or something, playing it live really allows for us to really curate it to make the most sense for what their dances are going to be. So we definitely recommend live if possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely is sometimes a little bit awkward if you do like a live dance and then go to a recorded dance, and then sometimes people want to go back to live, and it can be a little awkward in that situation.
Very true.
Yeah. We'll avoid that.
Yeah. I always tell our couples like just pick live or recorded. Don't do mix them all up. It gets a little confusing. So we talked a lot about the reception. Tell me a little bit about like picking songs for the ceremony. Are there like go-tos that you recommend for things like the processional? And how do you help people to kind of pick that ceremony music too?
So more generally, we would follow the same protocol, trying to figure out, well, what do people like? What general aesthetic are they going after? Because some people are going after something that's going to complement, just this is the recent taping that we did, it's going to complement their rustic countryside wedding. And some people are looking for something that's going to better go with their large cathedral-based ceremony situation. You know what I mean? So figuring out those things, even in some places you can't even play secular music in certain places of worship. So understanding those things is really important as well. And then understanding, well, what kind of song best represents the event itself, and these specific people walking, or the specific friendships or familiar relationships. And we'll do our best to walk couples through a series of questions that'll get them to figure out what artists and genres will be good for them. And if we can't find something in there, then we would typically go to running some of of our most commonly played ceremony selections by them, like Canon in D, Pachelbel's Canon, or 1,000 Years. All You Need Is Love always works as a really good recessional tune, and those are just a few.
Yeah, I love it. So we got to know, what was y'all's first dance? You told us your entrance song. What about first dance?
Go ahead.
Did you mention we didn't remember?
Yeah, we're like, oh no, we don't know.
Oh my gosh.
This is a song. It's a song that every time we hear it, it just like brings us back to the moment when we were dancing, but also all the moments that we've heard in between. It's almost like it's adding one more page in the book of Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton.
Oh, that's a really good one. That's a really good one.
It was so sweet. I have to tell this little story. We went on our honeymoon to Hawaii, And it was, I can't even remember what night, but it was close to the beginning of when we got there. And we just like went out to the beach late one night to get some drinks. And there were these performers playing like guitar and ukulele and singing. And they started playing Wonderful Tonight, like moments after we had sat down. And it was just like so sweet. And we were both like sobbing, and it was so wonderful.
It was a beautiful moment.
But yeah, to us, it was really important to choose a song too that we would hear again, like something that wasn't so, far off left field that we would never hear it over the radio or like at another wedding. We love to share in those special moments and just reminisce. Like we're such sentimental people. So we definitely we love just like hearing it whenever it comes up. It's just such a beautiful moment. So that was something that was important to us. And if that's important to other couples, like definitely choose that. I was working with a couple the other day who was, they were saying like, we actually want a song that's popular so that we can hear it while we're out, having lunch or something and just remember back to our day.
That's a great way to think.
Yeah.
Because we don't, we always say that there's nothing that's too cliche. And I know that a lot of people want to have a very unique experience, and a lot of people want to run away from things that are can be considered as common. Yeah. But I've played this song for maybe, I'd say 30 to 50 different weddings, and it never loses its value. Yeah. It's not any less meaningful that, two people would see each other far into their old age just because I played it for somebody else. Never has that ever even crossed my mind. Yeah, so we would say the same thing for anyone else choosing a song as well.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so before we close out here, we want to know, what are your top 3 recommendations for couples when choosing their wedding music?
Okay, number 1, look at your story first, look at memories, look at your past, and try to choose something that's really meaningful to you. Then number 2, trust your band or DJ, whoever is doing the music. If you've done your due diligence and chosen a vendor that knows what they're doing, trust them. They're the experts. They'll be able to guide you through the process and help choose music where you're not sure where to look. And then number 3, for the general music, we'd suggest sort of like in the dancing portion of the reception, choose a mix between the stuff that you really love and the things that your guests are going to love. The goal is really to get people on the dance floor to make some memories and have a really amazing time. And so by sort of choosing things that not only you love, but your guests are going to love, you're sort of going to ensure a really, really awesome night where people will go away feeling like, wow, that was the best wedding I ever went to. And I think that's what every couple wants, is everyone to leave being like, wow, your wedding was the best.
It's true.
They do. It's 100% true. Well, this has been so great. Your tips have been amazing. Tell our listeners where they can find you, and Spotify, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find us. Our Instagram is @MetPlayers. You can find our website, www.metropolitanplayers.com. And on that website, there are links to our Spotify playlists, on our blog. We also do this series called Met Player Monday that's on our website, as well as our Instagram and our YouTube page, with tips for couples. So if you're looking for more musical inspiration or tips, please feel free to go there and look. And if you need more help and just want to reach out on music, you can email us at info@metropolitanplayers.com. We're always happy to help.
Yeah, we've played about 500 weddings, so we know a thing or two.
A thing or two about music and weddings. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. This has been so wonderful. I've loved chatting with you, and I know our listeners are going to love these tips as well.
Thanks much for having us. We appreciate it.